Okay, so now we're gonna set up the run animation. If we head over here to the animator, we have this run. We want this to go from any state, right? So make transition to run, and then we'll make a transition back to exit whenever the conditions aren't true. So we need to add up a condition here, a parameter called run. Well, I'm still in the game playing. Can't set that up. Okay, so now we'll make a new float called run, and we'll set up this the way I did before. So we don't have any exit time. We will drag this transition over here, shorten it, and then we'll add up a condition by hitting this button, and then we'll click on run. And if running is greater than 0, then he'll go into run. And conditions here, we'll get rid of exit time and say if run is less than 1. All right, so then we're going to have to write the code for this, and we're going to use the shift key to run, like many video games. So we need to actually set that up in our input. So if we go over to edit, project settings, input, and if we go over here to Fire 3, that's already set up to be the left shift. So we're just going to rename it to run, and then we can get that access run inside of our code. So we'll hit save here. Let's go over to code, and let's set up that run. So if input.getAccess run, we just called it run, is greater than 0, then what are we going to do? We're going to set the animator dot set float run, and that's why we're able to name these two things the same thing, is because this is looking at a get access, and then this is looking at the animator, and so they're two different classes, and so they can have the same variable within them because they're different. Okay, so and then we're going to set float run to 1f. All right. However, remember, like before, we need to set it up so that if he's not running, we don't run, right? And let me show you something that would shorten this code up here. See how I have this else if up here? What I could do is do something called a conditional statement. So if input.getAccessRun is greater than 0, I can also use two of these brackets here. And this key is found above right next to your backspace key. You have to hold down shift to find these, all right? And they set up an or statement, or input.getAccessRun is less than 0. Because remember, like up here, we had to set it up with two if and then else if. This shortens it down to just one statement, which makes it a little bit easier to code and read out. You just have to know about these or conditionals. You can also do and conditionals. You'll learn about that more as you get into programming, but this will also work. And it'll get rid of all these extra lines of code here. So you can just put it on one line, which is quite nice, okay? So then we have to write our else to set it back to 0, like we did up here. So we'll copy that line of code, Control C, Tab, Control V, and we'll set this to run as well. Now if we did everything right here, we should see a run animation. Expect to see errors though, because coding is complicated and setting up the animator is complicated. But all we did here is we did the same block of code as we did here. So I'm even going to set this off a little bit, call this walk animation, and I'll end it right here. Or I'll call this run animation. All right. So I'm just kind of making things a little bit cleaner and easier to read here and find where problems are. This is all set up in here for the walk animation. Also, you're going to want to copy my syntax here. If I put a space in something, I do it because that's a standard. It doesn't mean the computer needs that to run. It just means that this makes it easier for humans to go back and find where a problem is. That's all. So try to copy me on all this. We've done the same thing up here, except for we've made it about run, and we use this or conditional to set it up on one line. I'm going to hit save there. We'll go back over to Unity and we'll clear this console. And what we should get is when we hold down Shift, a run animation. So we're going to walk forward, walk backwards. It's working. Now we're going to run. Now we're going to hold down Shift and we get this Naruto run. But notice he's not moving anywhere, right? So we need to set up that movement axis for him because all it's doing is going into the animation. And by the way, we have to fix the animation because it's looping too fast. So let's do that real quick. If we go in here to run, settings, we don't want to transition to self. That's dumb. And let's go ahead and hit play. Now he's just running. Okay, so that's perfect. And we need to fix it so we actually move somewhere because it's trying to transition from walk to run real quick when I hold down the other area. So we'll fix that here by adding some extra code. And I'll see you in that next lesson.